All right. It looks like we may be live. We may be becoming live any second here. Here we are on the first day of rally. It is just after 5 p.m. here on the Pacific time. I'm in Los Angeles, and it is just after 7 where Betsy is. Let me kick it over to Betsy to say hello real quick while we get the stream up and going inside of the Discord and everywhere else.
Hello. Okay, so just want to make sure that if this is your first time rally experience, especially in our especially yes, if you are in our main room, you'll want to join the stream on the Y.O.U alumni account. So you can kind of hover over the account. It says Y.O.U alumni, and then just click the button watch stream. So, and we'll add a link to the YouTube so that you can see, we'll be broadcasting there too, so that you can, if this is your first time at our rally, then you can have that there and then have the Discord up and running as well. So with that, I believe we'll take a moment and get centered and prepare to begin this rally. So I think that seems
great. Is that my cue?
All right. So Vince, that sounds great.
Keeping it light. All right, we're going to take... Everyone, we're just going to take a quick moment to get connected and centered wherever you are in time or space, whether you are here with us at this time on this Friday evening or whether you're watching later on. We can all stay connected. Let's take a breath in together and let it out. All right, we are open to an exciting rally evening ahead of us, and for a fulfilling and authentic rally weekend. I'm going to kick it to you, Betsy, to get it started.
All right, so our theme for this rally is navigating authenticity. And of course, we go to Brene Brown for some wisdom. Authenticity is the daily practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are. So, and really this was our focus with this rally has been, what does it mean to be authentic? We have to be authentic, but also, or at least that was something that was said when we were coming up with a theme. And then it's, to navigate that, I feel like really speaks to the fact that being authentic means that it's a day-to-day practice. So, and with that, speaking of awesome practices, just to get you into the rally space, I'd like to point you to our participant guide. That's at navigatingauthenticity.youalumni.com. This is all of, if you can imagine going to a rally or any event, and when you would show up, they would give you like a booklet, they give you a guide. This is our guide. So this website has everything for this rally. There's a welcome from our team. There is our schedule, not just in Google, but also in the 4 time zones. It's all pretty. Every announcement that we do on the server, we're going to do it over here. Our heart agreements, which keep all of us, they're just beautifully written I statements. I'm biased. But anyway, they should make you feel good feelings, and I'm excited for that. We have a playlist for this rally, virtual booths. If you'd like to donate money to this, there's daily inspiration. This thing has everything, and it's changing every day, which means like for events that are coming up, it has, the up-to-date stuff. So navigatingauthenticity.youalumni.com. Everything you want for Rally at your fingertips.
Absolutely.
And speaking of something that is on this, awesome. One of the things that you can sign up that we have on our participant guide is our Rally virtual photo album. We've created something on Photo Circle. So the idea is that if you could take pictures or videos of yourself this weekend, selfies, just pictures of your space, it's interesting to host a virtual rally, but we really are trying to create the rally experience. And so to help create this experience, we're hosting this virtual photo album. So there's a link on the digital participant guide. And we'll also put that up in the Discord server. And this is just another, honestly, like we have a lot of cool ideas on things we can do for Rally. And so this is just another one. And let's see if that can work out. So so connect. And we're actually doing a lot with pictures this event. So, and with that, what is this event? I'm going to kick that over to Linz. Tell us about what we're doing this weekend.
Great. If you've been to one of our events before, we were, kind of learning on the fly, and we've really kind of tried to apply what we've learned the last couple of events to streamlining and simplifying this event. So it's a little bit easier to attend and assimilate into your life back home while you're also trying to be crossing time and space into hanging out with us at Rally. So tonight we're doing the 70's panel. I'm really excited to get that started. The first family group. And then there's kind of the open hang community connection sessions. And this year we're also doing a couple of focused discussions, including what were they, Betsy? They were...
tonight is NGU. A chance, Callan Webb is hosting a chance to bring back some... it's an opportunity to talk to people. NGU, for those who aren't familiar, is Next Generation of Unity. It's the 18 to 35-ish group, and it was founded by some of us in the 90s. Now we're coming back around to have a conversation with anybody who's interested in working with NGU currently. Like I said, it's hosted by one of the founders, Callan Webb, and also, I know some people are coming specifically to go to this chat. So that is great. Tonight. There's also a Heart Talk at 10:30. And then
cool. Yeah. All of that is in the guide. If you want the particulars on those details, that's as Betsy said. We do a Vespers twice each night. There's sort of an early and a late one, so that no matter when you're sort of trying to detach and go get some rest, there's sort of a couple different options for that. Tomorrow's the big day. We're starting the day with the Authenticity Fair, which is a kind of choose your own adventure of different talks, and some things that are timed, other things that are self-paced, you can do at your leisure. And then we do families. We come together again for a big workshop. The Heart of Authenticity is also at the heart of the rally. It's like right at the center point, and we get to really kind of dive into what authenticity is, what it means for us, and what we do with all that. And then we do another great big family group time. And then we shift into the keynote in the evening with Noelle Silver, who I'm really excited to have, talking about ways to share your authentic voice. And then we're on to the Leroy White celebration dance, which is going to be a really fun time to come together and honor Leroy and honor our connection and move our bodies together in love together there. And then free time kind of community connection sessions. We have open time for open hangout, but then also these sort of focused discussions again. And this one, there's one for parents. and there's another one for students, so that if you are in a group and you want to connect with other parents or students, those are happening on Saturday, right?
Yes, and along with a chat hosted by Miranda Baker, where a conversation around we're coming together as an alumni network to see if we can assist or offer, just come together. How can we help Youth of Unity currently who is experiencing this COVID world? And that's meant a decrease in people going to rallies because you can't go to rallies. Like, anyway, so Miranda is a sponsor and a youth ed director, and also like, you know, an alumni, and that is, yeah, and a million wonderful things. Anyway, that's tomorrow night. So
yeah, I'm excited about that one. I think I've always thought there's an opportunity for this group to kind of be the booster program for the current Y.O.U. And I think that's a place where we can talk about how we can serve in that way. So that's exciting. That's tomorrow night. And then again, we close out with 2 Vespers. The Sunday, we're going to do a quick welcome prayer meditation, and then it's family group time where people can connect, and it's sort of the wrap up time. The keynote on Sunday, I'm really excited about. We have 5 former international, I think they're all they were all internationals. Maybe they weren't all international, but they were all in some kind of leadership from different years in 80s and beyond even. But we're talking about navigating authenticity with a workshop on how do we actually go out into the world and navigate the future. How do we interact with our future? Where in the future are we? And then we have, this is I think one of the really exciting things we're adding this year is we are collecting all of the ahas and the takeaways from the various sessions as the rally goes, and then we're putting them into a presentation that we're going to do as a wrap-up presentation, so that we get to kind of highlight what we've learned, retouch on everything from throughout the rally. So even if you miss something, you might still get a good takeaway from the recap at the end of the weekend. So we're really excited. I tried to do that as quickly, but not so quickly that we skipped anything. But the reason I'm doing it so quickly is so that we can get going and into the good stuff and into the panel today. So back to you, Betsy, and let's make this happen.
All right. So one cool thing that we did, the Y.O.U Alumni Network is actually right now a functioning team of 5 people who surprisingly have incredibly busy lives. And so one of the fun things we did in addition to creating Rally, because this is our third, is we put together a pretty rockin' website. So each section, each time we come together, we're going to look at a different section of the website. So tonight's panel is brought to you by history.youalumni.com. Okay, so to tell a tiny story, I wrote a very simple history page, and it was great, and I thought it was wonderful. And I took it to a teammate who said, you know, I think you should write it more like a blog post. And I scratched my original plan and then wrote a whole long blog post. And then me and some other people, anyway, there's even a third iteration of, I don't know if you've ever built a website or had a project like that where you think that your first draft is great, but really 3 drafts later. Anyway, history.alumni, the website I'm so proud to bring you. Literally, we've gone through generation by generation trying to identify as much we can using the Facebook group that we have. And so the information we have there, as well as a crowdsourced document that we started in the last year. Using that, we've tried to come together, and the crowdsourced document has been just international. And what it is it's a spreadsheet where we have gathered where we're attempting to gather all of the themes for conference and IYOU. Those are the same event. But anyway, so all of those themes and information about it, and then most recently we've come together to put all of the group photos together, and we currently even have about 42 of those. So the next phase is the regional history document, which will be coming out tonight during family groups. And basically what we'll be asking everybody to kind of come together is to remember your years and what regional events, the rallies you went to, who were the regies, what was the event. Anyway, this will be coming out later tonight. So, and meantime, please go spend some time at the history site. And please, 90s generation, we know we need to add some more pictures. We're really sorry. But, it's a, it's a great website. And part of what brought it today, yeah.
It reminds us how much we need to digitize things that are all in original prints, so.
Yes. Yeah. So, and to that extent, one of the things that we learned or that you can read about here is Charles DeTurk, who did a presentation for us at Spring Rally, and he was talking about his experience in the 1950s and 1960s Y.O.U. And so we realized by talking to him and looking at pictures that the 1970s generation really kind of was the generation that most of modern Youth of Unity is based on. It's where we can find t-shirts starting as a tradition. There's just a lot of things that seem to be, their pictures are really cuddly versus like some of the 60s photos were not as, anyway. All right, so we have 3 great panelists tonight, so let's get to it. All right, so we had this idea that we were gonna sing, this is that 70s panel based off that 70s show, but music doesn't come in well. If you can go to our website even, gosh, it's just like a bunch of links. But anyway, we wrote, and by we, I mean Rachel wrote an incredible version of that 70s show, the theme song. Yeah. Anyway, not a thing to do, but share with you. Okay, it's really good. But I'm not a great singer, and music doesn't come through great. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so we're gonna, without further ado, we're going to get into that 70s panel. Tonight, we have 3 incredible women who have agreed to talk about their time in Youth of Unity, and it is an incredible honor to host them all here. So we're going to go through one at a time. And first up, Kayla Wheeler Rowan. Okay, I'm going to welcome to the 70s panel. So, Kayla. So in Y.O.U, you were Kayla Beach, and you were in from 1968 to 1972 at the Unity Village Chapel in Unity Village, Missouri. So, let's see. Actually, I have another slide. We'll start there.
Hey, Betsy, before we start, I want to say thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it is, well, you're very welcome. Honestly, there's one particular picture that I saw of yours, and I knew that I wanted you to be on this panel because, I'm excited to show people that. But it's just exciting because you posted to the Facebook group a picture we'll pull up in a minute. But you're welcome. I'm glad you're here. So you were the president of the Unity Village chapter. And you were in Y.O.U in 1968 to 1972. So in 1968, was that Vietnam? What was going on historically then?
Yeah, it certainly was. And I think about our time right now and our time back then. And we really lived in a very divided world. There was the Vietnam era, and we were having to deal with friends and loved ones who were going overseas, which as unfortunately has continued into our present day life. But we also had racial unrest and racial awareness. And I just see that our times right now are very, very similar, and we need to go even deeper into ourselves to find more compassion.
Yes, I definitely agree with that completely. Okay, so when you were in Y.O.U, how did your family find unity?
Well, that's kind of a little bit of a lengthy story, but I'll make it as short as I can. We were originally Catholic, and we attended a local Catholic church. And when I would go to see my cousins, they lived out in Lee Summit, and we would go by Unity Village. And I would tell my parents, "Oh, I want to go there. I want to go there." I didn't know what it was, but I really wanted to go there. And my mother would always say to me, "No, honey, we go to Sacred Heart." And so then I began to understand that it was church. And my grandmother had a heart attack and was in the osteopathic hospital in downtown Kansas City. And she had a roommate who attended Unity Village. And the minister at that time was Ralph Ray. And so Ralph came down to visit her roommate, and my grandmother says, "Oh, my little granddaughter really wants to go there." And he just turns to her and says, "Well, a little child shall lead them." And my grandmother gets out of the hospital, goes and buys the first car she ever had. And we have to kind of understand this was in a time when women really couldn't have credit on their own. She had to pay cash for her car. And she also took driving lessons from J.C. Penney's. And she confronted my parents. And the next Sunday, I got to go to Unity. I was almost 4 years old when I started. Oh, and I can tell you a little more, Betsy. Let me add just a little bit there, because we had a work life that involved Unity. My mother worked at the inn. So through the 70's, the 80's, and into the early 90's. And my father was a Unity police officer that we sometimes called a Unicop, but I got to be honest and say most of us called them Unipigs. And because it was the thing of the time. And then I worked in Silent Unity, and my father also started the Braille Library. So we were quite connected to the church.
Was there a moment in Youth of Unity where I feel like, if you started and you were a Unity kid, was there a moment where it kind of clicked for you, where you realized how awesome Y.O.U was? I feel like it's kind of a loaded question, but was there a moment where Youth of Unity became different than the rest of the things that you did in Unity?
I believe that it was. Youth of Unity was really formative years. And those formative years, I was surrounded by people that were fabulous. Our director at that time was Dorothea Smith, and we had just fabulous sponsors that were involved with us. And so, but I do believe there was a switch over. I think some of it had to do with just the generation and the world at that time. we were growing into a different way of being. Because I know that in some of the old pictures, we don't look like we really liked each other. We're not hugging each other or holding hands, but we got into that and we did it, but it was something that was a bit more private. But that was a sign of the time. That was something that I believe my generation was trying to work through so that we could be more demonstrative with our emotions and with more open to authentically who we are. Because so much was hidden in the 50s and the early 60s and kept behind closed doors. And we were just a product of that. And so as we came into the 70s, I think we got more united with one another. I will say we were a huge group. We were a huge group at Unity Village when I was there. We had 87 teens that were part of it. And then, on a weekly basis, we might see 30 to 60 people in the chapel. So we were a very large group.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that's how big were your rallies?
You know, I'm trying to remember. The first rally I remember going to was in 1968, and it was in Wichita, Kansas. And I think at that rally, we might have had about 45 to 50 people. It was a good-sized group, and we did have to rent a bus to get to a local lake to go swimming. But I think it was about that size, if I remember right. You know, you're talking about a long time ago for me.
No, that, I mean, it makes sense. So it has been a minute. So let's see. You were telling us, I'm gonna pull up the pictures. Okay. Let's just push a couple buttons. Here we go. All right. So you were saying you went to conference 1969 to 71, and then and you kind of snuck into conference at 72, but I put that picture up, so we'll look at that in a minute. Okay, so this picture is the exact reason that you posted this to our Facebook group. And I circled who you were because actually in a picture later, I circled who Patty is. Anyway, I just love this picture. So this was International Officers 1971. So tell us, was this at conference?
This was at conference. This was the last day of conference. And we were in the old amphitheater, which is not even there any longer.
Okay. And then was this like, because at conference at certain times, was this like for the banquet, like everybody's dressed up?
No, we were just coming in for photos for that day. That was right at the end, and we gathered and did the larger group photo. And then we did this one with the regional reps and the international officers.
Okay, so then that year you were a regional officer. And so you were a regional officer for Midwest. Did you have, I'm really just asking this for other generations, but did you have a mascot at the time? Like, was this when it was Midwest Moo Cows? Was that a thing then?
No, we didn't have a mascot.
Okay. Okay, so then that came later. Okay, so I just absolutely love this picture because I feel like this picture, at least, people are holding hands, which to me that's very Y.O.U. Plus, you're all kind of close to each other, so
We had a pretty close group that year, and a lot of us knew each other before this conference, and so it was a coming together of us being regional and international officers together at the same time. We'd also, remember, this is at the end of conference. So we're all lit up here. We're on fire. We're ready to go out. We knew we were changing the world every single day. And so this is kind of us at our bright and shiny, and really excited about what we were accomplishing and what we were doing. We'd also had some really deep discussions at that particular conference about the future. Where did we want to take Y.O.U? Where was unity moving towards? Things were changing. And later in that decade, things changed very much for unity overall. So we could feel that coming. And we were just trying to get a step ahead in understanding so that we could help facilitate that.
That's kind of a big deal. Okay, so let's look at some conference pictures. This is 1969. That looks like a lot of people.
It's a lot of people. I'd say the 69 conference was maybe 350.
Okay.
A pretty good sized lot. And I also kind of know from my mother, having cooked at the inn, that that's about the number that they were kind of shooting for, was 350 to 400 meals a day. Quite a task. So in this particular picture, I think I'm like from the third row from the back somewhere. So one of those little dots back there is me.
Okay, so yeah, no, that's a fun game to play. All right, so then this is 1970. And this one, even, I feel like you see more hand holding. That's always the thing I look for in these pictures, I guess, because it's what the rest of Youth of Unity looks like. So, and then we have 71, and then the one, the first year that the picture was in color. And you were we talked earlier today, so you went to this, I thought this was significant just because, so you were saying you went to this conference because you live nearby, but who else did you bring to this conference with you?
Well, in the course of the year, I had gotten married and had my daughter. And so the first day of conference, I went out and went to the clubhouse and hung out with my daughter and showed her off to everyone that was attending. We had a great time. We passed her around. It was fun. She doesn't remember. I asked her just a few minutes ago.
Okay, so yeah, which is, again, that's things that change in generations. So although I still think it would be great to have a kid to pass around there. All right, so after Youth of Unity, worked at Silent Unity, and then did you work at Silent Unity? I guess the question is, when did you work at Silent Unity?
I worked in Silent Unity in 1977 and 78. And I started out as a letter writer. And because of some of my Y.O.U activities, I had gotten to know James Dillett Freeman and his wife, Billy, very well. And so Billy asked me to be a special letter writer. And so I did that for the last year that I was there at Silent Unity.
Okay. And then you had a successful corporate career in telecommunications. And then tell us about the school that you founded.
So in 1991, I contracted cervical cancer and had major surgery. And coming out of that surgery, I was no longer content with my corporate job and did not feel like it was me. It had certainly taken care of me and my children and sent them to the schooling that they required and those types of things, and pretty well set me up good for life. But I wasn't happy in my work, and I surely didn't feel authentic. And I really began to struggle with integrity, what I was doing and why I was doing it, and what a corporation was and what that process was. And my father was an herbalist. He was a lay herbalist. He was also a police officer, but he was a lay herbalist. And so I had taken care of my children with herbs for small little childhood complaints, a stomach ache, a headache, a cough, cold, things of that sort. So I went and got some formal education on both the East Coast in New York and in the Southwest in New Mexico, and came back to Kansas City, and I founded Prairie Wise Herbal School. We're now in our 26th year. We train clinical herbalists, which is a 3-year program, and home herbalists, which is a 1-year program. And my excitement for this next year is we are moving everything online because, the teacher's aging. So because of that, we're going to begin to use this technology that I worked so hard when I was younger to create.
That is awesome. And a mom, grandma, and great grandmother. So is there anything else about your time in Youth of Unity that you feel like it sets it apart?
I think the entire time in Youth of Unity set it apart. It began my wanderlust for travel as I moved around the region and met with other groups. I certainly enjoyed that part of it. Of course, I never had to travel for conference, which was a little disappointing once in a while. I thought everyone else was getting the better deal. And then one year at the talent show, I sang Leaving on a Jet Plane, and everyone was in tears, and I was like, oh no, I ruined everybody's evening. But I think we got through it. It was okay. It was a bad choice on my part. But I only remembered that just the other day. I was like, oh yeah, how insensitive of me to start singing Leaving on a Jet Plane when everybody else was going to actually do that. My time there was really important also in shaping some of my underlying character, and not just for my mental or my emotional beliefs, but certainly my spiritual beliefs. And I have hence decided that I now attend the Holy Church of the Great Outdoors, which, again, to me, it's in us, it's without us, it's everywhere. That's what Unity and Y.O.U time gave me. It gave me a sense of self. It made me not be so afraid in our world. We were always worried about the bomb. We're hiding under our desks and all kinds of things like that because of atomic bombs. But when I was Y.O.U, I was not afraid. And we had the pool. I mean, we spent enormous amounts of time together because we were at the village. And so we would go to the pool and spend time together during the week. As I said, it was a tight-knit group.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kayla. All right, we will bring you back as we shift to the next part of our program. And we'll bring up Reverend Patty Williams. Welcome. You asked earlier, you said that you assumed a Joy song was coming. That would have been nice.
But hey, Y.O.U, we talk about music. You gotta have songs.
Honestly, the only reason we don't do it is because it's surprisingly hard to do music over these platforms.
I get it. I'm at a church. I try to do it every Sunday.
Right, yeah. So yes, definitely. All right. So you are Reverend Patty Williams, and then you were Chicante?
Chicante.
All right.
Just like Picani, but with a G.
Okay, so 75 to 80 at the Unity Village Church as well. So, and I just love this picture of you. You're like glowing. Anyway.
I remember that moment well.
All right. So, Unity Village Chapel, 30 to 50 people at the Fillmore Chapel every Sunday. And you had a full service run by teens. Tell us about that. What was that like?
You know, I had the joy of coming in the generation, the years after Kayla. In fact, it was Kayla's sister, Kyra, who introduced me to Y.O.U, who took me to Unity Village for my first time. And it was to a room full of teenagers that were talking about spirituality in a way I didn't know people got together and did. It was a pretty amazing, and I felt encompassed in love the moment I walked in the door the first time. I was at home. I remember I mentioned to you a pivotal moment in my spiritual journey happened that first day, because not only did Kyra take me there, another neighborhood friend that I had known for years, but I went to I went to a Catholic grade school. And this other friend, Beth, was leading a meditation in a church service, is what I thought it was. Didn't really know what Y.O.U was at that point. But she led us in a meditation and had us envision a candle in our heart. And I feel like a light got uncovered that had been covered as long as I could remember. I just knew I was at home. And I stayed with it, well, until like many of us do. In my early 20s, I took off for a few years and left Unity, but found my way back. But from that moment I walked in, Unity was home for me. I don't know. I could keep talking, so you might want to ask what your next question is. I will keep going. Like I say, give a minister a microphone.
Oh, right. That is a thing that they say. So, okay. Yeah. So I also, in asking you about conference, you were saying that you were unofficially in conference from 75 to 79, basically.
Yeah. Well, to as many moments as I could be, and most of them were with Kayla's sister, Kyra. We would go to visit her parents. I mean, her dad was security there. We would say, oh, we got to drop off something to my dad. And they would let us through the gate, or mom needs something in the kitchen and we told her we'd bring it. So we kind of got to be on grounds when nobody else really got to. So it was really wonderful because I felt so at home by the time I actually got there. I felt so like I belonged because I had been parts of different things for all these other years. The only thing I didn't get to do was family groups. So I didn't realize how much of that I was missing until I went to my first rally. But we even checked in on Fuzzy Lane a time or two when we weren't supposed to be there.
Like, that sounds pretty awesome. So where were your rallies at? Were they at churches? Were they at camps?
Well, our regional rallies were predominantly at churches. We kind of had them all over the place. I remember rallies up in Des Moines and in St. Louis. My dad took us by van to Colorado. One at a camp out in Kansas somewhere. The big one I remember, there was a super rally at a camp down in Texas that we took, big Greyhound buses everybody had. I mean, that was buses from all over the Midwest. That was bigger than conference almost. They had that many there from throughout the Midwest, which was pretty amazing to see that many all wearing rally shirts and having a fat. But I think what I remember most about that rally was the bus ride there and back. That was pretty cool to be hanging out with a group of Y.O.U.ers in that kind of enclosed space for that long.
Yeah, I always the van ride or the rally ride is definitely worth it. All right, so let's look at some of your pictures.
Which is a rally ride.
Yes, so this shirt it says "Love to be me," Yeah.
Free to be me.
Free to be me. That's so. I was like, that's so late 70s.
Yeah.
And
It says the
the
great West in the upper corner too.
so there's a question for you. In your time in Y.O.U, was Unity or was Y.O.U itself very Christian?
No, I would have. I grew up Catholic.
Okay.
No, I
Okay.
I did not hear much Christian based, which surprises me now, being that we were at Unity Village. But it was much more Jerry Jampolsky teachings that were a little more not mainstream, but in the New Thought genre that maybe came out of the Fillmore's teachings, but weren't. It wasn't the Fillmore's. And now, I also, though, as I got out of Y.O.U, took some CEP classes, so I got some of that, but it was after Y.O.U.
Okay. No, I mean, I remember, I don't know if the down clap when I originally learned it
Yes.
had a line about, you remember the down clap.
I
It had a line about, dig us as we practice Christianity every day.
Yeah, that was
So-
still there.
Yeah.
Take us as we practice Christianity every day.
Yeah. And now it's, oh gosh. Somebody's going to say it in the comments as soon as this comes through. Anyway, let's look at some. So this was a rally picture, and that is you with the.
It got changed while I was in there, and I just can't remember what it was.
Yeah, it was.
Take us as we practice. It'll show up.
Living, laughing, learning. Oh my gosh.
Like Kayla says, it was a few years ago.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fine. Anyway, yeah, another. I loved this picture because your rally bus was actually. I mean,
It was a VW class.
So cool. Okay.
It was very cool.
And then I just like this was one of your pictures, and I really just liked all their hair and the arm in arm thing that's happening.
That was us. And yeah, I wish I could even remember the names. This is a picture I took at rally, and I can't. It's been so long ago. I cannot remember. I think it was at the Skinker rally in St. Louis, in the church on Skinker. But that's all I can really remember about that. And I only think it was Skinker because of the building behind it.
Okay. All right. So then, all right. This was your.
There was a lot of us there.
This is your conference at 80. And since we were talking earlier, I did take a little circle. You can see it right here. And then even as an homage to that, yes, there you are.
Sunglasses, my long hair.
It's a cool shot. So, okay. Yeah, so your life after Youth of Unity. You were even saying earlier about exploring or leaving Unity entirely.
I think back now, and the one thing that Y.O.Uers who were in Y.O.U with me at the time probably didn't know was I was an active alcoholic at the time. Didn't drink at Y.O.U events, which was a good thing, which was a very good thing. But I had already headed down that path, and I left Unity. I don't know. I was probably 21 when I started going out and exploring out in the world, and ended up going down some interesting paths like we all do. And found my way back to Unity. I guess I'm going to say it. When my former husband at the time committed suicide. And I remembered what it was that saved my life the first time. Because I do believe Unity saved my life as a teenager. And it saved my life again. Or I should say he saved my life. When he showed me a road sign and said, the world said, find your way back. So I found my way back to Unity Village. And at that point in time, Adults of Unity had started up. And Adults of Unity was basically a Y.O.U for adults that held a rally every year in Colorado. And I became very involved with that within a very short time of finding my way back, and felt totally embraced. It was a group of old Y.O.Uers that were putting on a Y.O.U event for each other, and we had Carl Anthony and Alan Cohen and Charlie Thweet and that whole genre coming together, and it reconnected me to the truth of who I am, and I kind of remembered what was important in life, and put me on this path that ended up in ministry.
Right. So you worked at Silent Unity, which I'll just say with me. Or I worked at Silent Unity with
I
you.
worked at Silent Unity for 7 years.
Wow, yeah. So definitely with you because I wasn't there. That's amazing. And now you are a Unity minister at Unity of Salem in Salem, Oregon.
I am, where I love my life. I love what I'm doing. I wish we had a Y.O.U, and that's in my vision. That's a big part of my vision for the future. We've created the space, we've created the energy to attract that, and then COVID hit, so life kind of got a little wonky, and that vision is still there, and will unfold as it can, as it's supposed to. We all know all of that.
No, I mean, and that's what we're, talking about tomorrow night is how can we support Y.O.U post, in this COVID world, because you're sitting there with a fertile space ready for teens. So that is awesome. So, and ultimately, Adults of Unity is really even a precursor to Next Generation of Unity also. So that's kind of, you got all
there was a Y.A.U for a while that was the precursor to A.O.U, and then A.O.U was the precursor to N.G.U.
Yeah, well, yeah, and even really, Y.A.U was the precursor to N.G.U too, because that was, anyway. And now Adults of Unity isn't even a thing anymore, which is kind of sad. I like their conference.
Not just kind of sad, it's very sad. And my prayer, quite frankly, my prayer is that the ministry I am involved with becomes a Y.O.U for adults, that we have that kind of relationship with each other, that it's that kind of loving presence where we can authentically be who we are here to be and not feel like we have to be anyone else, and show up authentically no matter what's going on in our world, and feel totally and completely welcome. That's my vision for what ministry is. That's what I felt in Y.O.U. Whatever was going on in my life, I could be there. I was there. I belonged. I was welcomed with open arms, no matter what.
Wow. Yeah, so definitely we have a home at Unity of Salem, so that's exciting. All right, so we are going to shift. Thank you so much, Reverend Patty. We're going to shift into our last panelist, who is Diana. Diana Britton Thompson. Welcome.
Thank you.
Currently in Denver, Colorado.
Yes.
But when you were in Y.O.U, you were Diana Jones, 1977 to 79. So this is pretty exciting. I know some of the people in the main room right now are in Southeast, so it's pretty exciting to be able to hear from someone. I came from Southeast originally, so anyway, very excited. So you were from the Atlanta chapter, and was that Unity of Atlanta, just the main Unity church there? Do you remember?
Yeah. It was the main Unity, and I knew of a couple of other Unities that were in Georgia, but they didn't have a Y.O.U that I know of.
Yeah. So, okay. And so the rallies happen in Florida, which I have to say that's pretty much how that was when I was there 20 years later, with with basically, you were saying once a quarter, lots of Florida chapters.
Yeah.
So do you remember anything about the rallies in particular?
Well, they were a lot of fun. We were a big crowd, very close knit group, and I assumed that they were about once a quarter, but it seemed like they were very, very frequent. So they might have been more often than that because we really liked getting together.
Yeah, that's so a very close group. And then you went to conference. I think I have it as no, I wrote down 1977 here, but I believe the year I pulled up was 79. So, and you were saying that you went to Disney World. What else do you do in Florida with
Right.
your Y.O.U friends? And I was super excited because you were talking about yarn fuzzies, which it's so as the tradition I understood it, you would hug somebody and then you take like a piece of yarn and put it around like a necklace or an earring. Is that the same tradition that you had then? Was it different?
Well, not only that, but I found my warm fuzzies from that long ago because as I told you, Betsy, when I was downsizing my mother's home, I found this whole box of Y.O.U memorabilia. And so I had some warm fuzzies. They're quite faded because I think they were pink and yellow and blue. And at some point I tied them together and then I would wear them as a bracelet. So yeah, we would tie them in each other's hair, fingers, clothing, jewelry. You just walk out covered in yarn. And then, then some of us would obviously tie them together and keep them. I didn't expect to keep them this long, but they were in storage.
Well, and I think sometimes the stuff with like I mean, I definitely feel like I could feel the energy of the hugs from. Yeah. Okay, there we are. All right. So, and then you were saying you wrote a.
Yeah, we really kept in touch, and as I said, we were a very close friend group, and we wrote letters. We talked on the phone when the long distance was 55 cents a minute, and we all had parents that were upset over very large long distance charges. And one time, we were. Two or three of us were so determined to get to one of the rallies that we drove down to Florida on an 8-hour drive in this car that was not safe. It was just a piece of junk. And fortunately, we got to the rally, but on the way back, it broke down. And we were stuck on the side of the road for 8 hours while somebody came to get us. So we were pretty determined, but yeah, we had long distance relationships, and I have an entire box of letters that I have uncovered.
Oh wow, that's really powerful. I felt like when I was in Y.O.U, you were either a letter writer or you just received letters. So it seems like at that point maybe everybody wrote letters. That's
Well, when you don't have text, then you have to resort to stamps.
Definitely. All right, so let's look at some of your pictures, and this is like one of my favorite parts because you had quite a few pictures. So then this picture I loved because it's just a regional T-shirt.
It is, and it is right here. I fit in it at one point, and front side, Southeast Y.O.U, and then. Yes, some very talented Y.O.U-er obviously drew the design.
Yeah, because even drawing designs is something that that the most current generations of Y.O.U haven't had to. It's all computer, so this is so and I love it. It's so funny. It's like It's so Florida. There's a crocodile and then Mickey Mouse. There's some surfing. I'm not sure why there's a mountain there, but whatever. There's mountains in Tennessee, I suppose, which is technically Y.O.U. Okay. And then this was from your Facebook group. I just loved this, that there was like this container, for warm fuzzies.
Yeah, I didn't post that, but it looked like someone saved all of their warm fuzzies as well as I.
Yeah, just I have mine in a lamp, but it was just a cute container. Okay.
Yeah.
So then this was going to Disney.
Right. And the year that we went there, they had these kind of individual cabins, I guess, that were shaped like mushrooms. So you'd go in and do the little spiral staircase up to the main room area, the hotel room or suite area. But it was an entire area that was just filled with mushrooms. So we stayed in the mushrooms.
Okay, so are you in this picture?
I am in the dark jacket right next to Tweedledee.
So are you the one? You're the one laughing here?
Yes, that's me.
That's a really okay. That was oh goodness. Okay, hold on. I just zoomed through a bunch of slides. Please excuse. Okay, so that's you, and then this looked like going to a rally picture, and I really liked his hat. So
yeah, and goodness, I can if I had known you were going to pull this up, I would have thought of the girl's name who's in the blue shirt. She was in our Atlanta, Dana. I think her name was Dina or Dana. And yeah, she was in our Atlanta group, not for a long time, but yeah.
Yeah. No, that's very cool. This was if I didn't know this was a Y.O.U picture, you would know. I mean, he has fuzzies in his hair.
Yeah.
Are you in this picture?
No, I was not at that rally. So there were a lot of pictures that were sent to me. In fact, when it was funny that I found all of these pictures because I don't remember ever owning a camera. So all of the photos I have are ones that people sent to me. And I don't think I attended this rally.
Oh, wow.
And I had quite a bit of pictures, but that is me in the striped shirt.
Okay. That's a good shot. Definitely like stripes like that. And it's so, again, it's very huggy. So, right. A theme. And then I just thought I really liked his pants, honestly.
Yeah, and it's amazing that I could still name who many of these people are, even though I haven't seen them in decades.
Yeah. Okay, so then this, I believe, is the conference that you went to. So I pulled this photo.
I do believe that's the one I was in.
And I mean, it's been a minute. It's weird because I think of, I don't know. I think that the 80s are still 20 years ago and they're just not. So,
right.
Okay. All right. So then your life after Youth of Unity.
Right. Well, I mentioned to you that all of that long distance letter writing and relationship building through Y.O.U really prepared me to have a long distance relationship with the man who would eventually become my husband. And that long distance relationship lasted for 14 years. So we've now been married for a nice long time, but we did a lot of letter writing and very expensive phone calls.
Oh, wow. Okay. And yeah, that's amazing. So you had a daughter also that was in Y.O.U.
Yes. And when she started high school, she really had a hard time finding a community in this very large school of almost 4,000 students. And I just remembered how important the Y.O.U was for me. And I literally forced her to go to a Unity church with me one day. And I just said, you don't ever have to go back, but today you have to go. And so she came down from the being in the Y.O.U room, and she just kind of stared at me, and I said, "You want to come back, don't you?" And she was like, "Yes." And I don't want you to be right, but yes. And so she was in Y.O.U for about 2 years and attended a lot of rallies. And what she said to me was exactly the feeling that I had when I first walked into Y.O.U. And that was this feeling that you belonged there and that there was nothing that you had to do or to prove yourself to be part of the club. If you were there, you were included. And I thought about this as I believe Reverend Patty was speaking, in one of the photographs. One of the very first times that I went into a Y.O.U room, there was a young man who was a person of color who walked in. And I had come from I'd grown up in the Mormon church until I went to Unity. And so when this person of color walked in, everyone ran up and embraced him as if he was just a member of the family. And I was just inspired, because coming from the Mormon church, that certainly was not the case. And I just loved that feeling of inclusiveness and belonging, and everyone was part of the family.
Wow, that is very powerful. So tell us about the work. So the work that you do now, and kind of how that, how your time in Y.O.U spoke to that.
I'm a speaker, a writer, and an educator. And I've created a curriculum and a set of books, and I speak on social, emotional, and problem-solving skills. And I think a lot of the experience in Y.O.U was directed towards building these skills in community and communication. And even though I don't specifically remember any kind of difficult emotions to navigate, it was a very safe space. And that speaks to a lot of the work that I do in social and emotional and problem-solving building.
Awesome. Okay, so what we'll do now is we're going to bring everybody back, and we have had a couple of questions. There we all are. Okay, so the first question is from Lynn, and she asked, Kayla, you mentioned that the group in the photo, your picture in the beginning, Kayla, was so excited about the future of Y.O.U. What do you think about how it ended up compared to what you were envisioning? Like, is this what you envisioned with, when you were at that point in Y.O.U?
Well, I think a lot of what we were looking at that time was we were living in a world that was changing so rapidly that the moment you would dream it, it would happen. And manifestation was very quick at that time. And that's what we were talking about. How could we get our heads on straight? How could we get our thoughts right so that we could move into this new world that was going to change very, very rapidly? And of course, that sounds somewhat silly now, because we change it within seconds now. But then again, we weren't on cell phones. We didn't have an internet platform. We were writing letters, as was said. It was the only way that we could keep up with one another and to communicate. So what we were looking at was, how do we expand our thinking very, very quickly, and yet keep it heart-centered and keep it in love? We also knew that Unity was changing. We were going into a different era and a different way of thinking. When you asked the question about I think it was Reverend Patty's experience in Were We Christian? Or did we talk a lot about Christianity? We didn't talk about it at all. We actually were talking about how we could be even beyond that. And And it was never really brought up. We also spent a year going to other churches, and not other Unity churches, other churches in the Kansas City area. We set up discussion groups and Sunday groups where we would visit other youth groups within other church organizations. So it was really about expanding our minds. And we were trying to do that in a very spiritual way instead of the drug of choice at the moment. So we were looking towards how do we move onward? Is it what we envisioned? I don't think so. I don't think the world is anything like I envisioned it at that time. But I think I am. I think I am what I envisioned at that time. From my visit with Reverend Patty earlier this year, she is what we have envisioned at that time. And in this very short time, Diana, you are exactly what we envisioned going forward. So we did it. We accomplished that goal, that there are still people there that are authentic, that are coming from their heart space and are holding those things to be true for us even today.
Well said, Kayla.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, because I wonder too if it was about having a vision at that time. We do have some people that are asking, that are pulling up questions. But there's a thought. Did Diana? You were saying sort of that Patty's segment, made you think about things. Was there anything else that you had wanted to that the other segments reminded you of or brought up for you?
I think for me, going into the Y.O.U, I did have that experience of people genuinely accepting and embracing one another for who they are, and not trying to fit them into kind of a mold of what kind of the popular kids would look like or anything else. It was just an absolutely embrace of who everyone was. And it gave me a sense of that as a possibility. And I have to be honest, there are few times in my life when I've ever had a community like that. But it's something to aspire to. And I think as adults, there are fewer and fewer of those arenas that we have available to us. And especially in a COVID, now post-COVID world, what does it look like to create that kind of community?
I also think that it taught me not only will I be welcome, I have a voice. I have a valid voice. I mean, the first time I ever preached in front of a group of people, which wasn't my fellow Y.O.Uers, because we shared lessons with each other all the time, but we were invited to give a talk at Unity Village Chapel. And four of us took 5 minutes each, and we took chapters out of Love is Letting Go of Fear. And a few of Kayla's compatriots from the years before us came and worked with us and helped us to create this experience at the activity center at the Unity Village Chapel. I mean, they gave us a platform and didn't even, I mean, I'm used to if you were going to get up on the stage in front of the adults, you had to practice in front of them so they knew what you were going to say. They didn't even do that. They just trusted and let us do our thing.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
I was also reminded of a time when I went into one of the rallies. It might have been the second rally that I ever went to. And as we were going around and introducing ourselves, I jokingly said, well, I'm nobody from nowhere. And it just kind of started as a joke, but then somebody else kind of said the same thing. We became the Nobody Club and had multiple members. And even though I was very shy and I had kind of a low self-esteem, and it became a certain sense of empowerment through that, even the acceptance of that casual dismissal of my presence in the room. So.
Okay, so yeah, Lynn said, "Thank you, Kayla. I wasn't in Y.O.U at the time, but she graduated high school in 1976. She was Lynn. You're still here. Lynn is a sponsor in Southeast, and Gabby said that was beautiful, Kayla, and just some inspiring. It's interesting too, because I feel like all of where you ended up is completely, it feels very in alignment with Y.O.U, but how, I mean, and so it's like the question of how did Y.O.U affect your life, seems almost, almost obvious. Is there ways that it's less obvious?
There's a I don't know why this came up when you asked that question, but it opened me. I grew up Catholic, and I didn't have any thought basis systems outside of Catholicism, and in Y.O.U there was such a diversity of thought, and it was all discussed that one time at a Y.O.U rally at a camp in Kansas, we had an experience because we so opened our hearts up. We had an experience where two of us experienced. Okay, I'm just going to say it. We were sitting in a circle, and we literally saw someone wrapped in ace bandages, covered with blood, with a knife in their hand, coming at us. This person was not there. The two of us saw it at the same time and jumped over other people to get away. We later found out it had been a camp that was used as a first aid camp during one of the civil wars or something like that. But what happened was an adult sat down with us, did not negate our experience, and talked with us about what that could have been, or what we could do with that experience, or do with that energy. It didn't, and we had this amazing opportunity to connect that really opened me up to, wow, there's other ways of being and showing up and doing and seeing the world. I didn't know what spirituality was outside of Catholicism, and it allowed me to explore what that might be for me, not because somebody says that's what it is, but really, what is it for me?
I think my time in Y.O.U actually helped me to not be afraid of death. And that's a really early time to grab a hold of that concept that death is not final. But we had a Y.O.U-er who was very seriously ill and suspected that the worst was going to happen, that she was going to leave us. And we all went into the Peace Chapel one evening, laid around on the floor. We were all so emotionally exhausted. And we just prayed for her highest good. It's when I really came to understand what that meant. It didn't matter if she lived or died. What mattered was, what was her highest good? What was best for her in that moment? And somehow going through that experience, and she lived, by the way, but somehow through that experience, I really got a hold of not being afraid of death, and was lucky enough in the late 70's to study with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, Death and Dying. And of course, today that would be called a death midwife, and have worked with numerous people in that vein, as well as my own family. So that's a precious gift that Y.O.U gave to me.
Wow.
I don't know why, Kayla, but I just was remembering, and this has nothing to do with what you said, but being at a Y.O.U conference in 1980 in the outdoor, whatever you called it, the amphitheater,
The theater.
Sufi dancing with not just doing what we thought was Sufi dancing, but having the local Sufi community come and have 500 of us, 400 of us, however many it was, doing this together, and how powerful that was.
I was there.
I think maybe I was there. I know I did Sufi dancing with like 500 people.
I was
thinking you
there
might-
because I was part of the Sufi community at that time.
I thought that
And-
might be the thing.
Yeah, and I was the junior sponsor for the Y.O.U group for about probably 8 or 9 months. I didn't have a long tenure. But I was definitely at that 80 conference when we Sufi danced. Yes.
We'll take
Sufi-
over, Nancy.
No. My question is, I've definitely done Sufi dancing, but is Sufi dancing the same thing as dances of universal peace?
Yes.
But it's like led by actual. Okay, so, wow. Okay, did you?
Well, we kind of started something and then it had to be changed a little bit to make it fit well.
Yeah.
So Diana, we did Sufi dance together.
Well,
Yay!
I know it was Sufi dancing. I specifically remember that. So maybe they started it and did it other years, but
They did. They came a couple of years.
okay.
Yeah.
But it
I
was
would
a really
show up just for that. I would sneak in just for that.
it's a wonderful experience. Yeah, and speaking of kind of experience with death, that the conference that I attended was my first experience with death, because 2 weeks beforehand, one of the members of our Atlanta chapter who was scheduled to come with us to that conference was killed in a car accident leaving the church. And the community just came together and were so wonderful and supportive. But that was my first experience with loss.
Wow. Yeah. All of this, and of course, looking at all of you, like, it reminds me of a thing I'd heard that in high school, the death gene starts. You start to accept that at some point, I'm not going to be here anymore, or that, like, you don't like yourself, and therefore, that starts this process. And I had a theory that because in Youth of Unity, there's like this raw acceptance that you have that mirrored to you, and it means that maybe the death gene slows down. And I guess I was saying that I think that's why we all look so young. But I suppose, like you were saying, your time in Youth of Unity made you look at death differently. Do you feel like your time in Youth of Unity made you feel younger or accept yourself at a different rate other than your non-Y.O.U peers?
Oh, I think it made me feel older. I felt more mature because of my experiences there. Like I had more, because I thought I had more experiences and was involved with a greater diversity of people than what some of my friends was. I loved going to church. So I would go to church with other friends. I would go to the local Catholic church that was there in our neighborhood, and I would go to their CYO groups. And I just, I love the idea of religion, and not necessarily dogma, but definitely religion.
Okay, so I want to thank all of you for your time here. We're going to start shifting into the next part of our rally, but I really appreciate all of you being here. To Diana, Patty, Kayla, yes, big hugs, and big hugs from the and as there's messages or questions through the rally weekend, if any of them are directed to you, I'll send them to you directly. All right. And of course, feel free to join us on our Discord server if you are available. All right. Coming up next, we have family groups, and family groups that is for anybody who would like to join a family group. If you've already told us you want to join a family group, we got you covered. So we will get you signed up and put into your family groups. And I believe this time you're going to be able to name them. So that's pretty great. And then after family groups, we also have community connection sessions, including Next Generation of Unity, then and now, as in then more meaning, 20 years ago. But there's a lot of lessons to learn from the early 2000s. And Kellen will be heading that up. Later, there'll be a heart talk. Look at your schedule for times. And anywhere else that you want to chat in community connections, some Vespers, and let us not forget, Linz. What was that? What else do we have for Rally?
We have two more days of this. So this was just a taste, and it was a really good one. Sitting here watching sort of backstage and just soaking it up. That was really, really fun.
Yes. Yes. So big fuzzies and blessings to our guests tonight. And remember to, wow. It's a very powerful experience. Thank you so much. Anyway, so I think there is even a break.
Yep, we have a break right now. We have a break. The family groups technically start at 6:45 Pacific, 7:45, 8:45, 9:45 Eastern. And yeah, so take a break, get yourself accustomed to what's going on, move your body a little bit, maybe if you're feeling like you've been sitting too long, and do some chatting, connecting with everybody who's here.
Yes, get to the introduction room, get signed up. All right. We will thank you all, and we'll get back at you in a bit. Enjoy navigating authenticity.